Hi everybody, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. I was going to wait to do this video. I made a post on the community tab, you may have seen it, that my dad just died. So I wasn't planning on doing this video just yet. I'm not in the best headspace, I can be 100% honest with you guys. But I have a lot of thoughts about this book right here, The House Across the Lake. And they're not good thoughts. Let's just get that right out there in the open. So I kind of started to think about it, and I came to the conclusion that if I waited, I might lose some of my thoughts, not be able to get everything out that I wanted to say. So I'm going to go ahead and record this while it's fresh on my mind. I don't know if I am going to post it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and record it just so I can get all my thoughts out there about it. House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I had such high hopes for this book, and it was a major letdown. This is probably the worst book I've read of the year. I could be wrong. There could be something earlier in the year that I've already forgotten about, but as of right now, everything that comes straight into my mind, this is the worst one. And I had such high hopes because if you watched a couple months ago, I put up a video about Final Girls when I read that, and that kind of made me feel like Riley Sager was redeemed in my eyes a little bit. But then this just took it way back down to the bottom, especially considering that this is his newest release. I am a little concerned. I would stop reading him altogether, but there's only 2 books now at this point that I haven't read. So I'm going to go ahead and finish his back. So I am going to go ahead and finish his backlist. Hopefully I'll like the other 2 a little bit better. But The House Across the Lake, for those of you that don't know, this is a story with an unreliable narrator who is a failed actress named Casey Fletcher. And Casey has kind of been exiled to the family lake house, which is in this rich, affluent area where celebrities tend to summer. And she is sent there after a pretty bad drinking binge that puts her in all the tabloids. So her mom, who is also a famous actress, sends her there to, try to isolate her from alcohol and to kind of wait out the bad press until it dies down. Good boy. Everybody, this is Boston. He's been kind of taking care of me. Yeah, you say hi? Can you say hi? You say hi? Yeah, he's a good boy. He's been sticking by my side since I found out about my dad. He's a really good little buddy. Yeah? Can you sit down, please? Can you sit down? Yeah, you little ham? Are you a little ham? Yeah? Can you sit down? Sit down. Sit down. So, please don't mind the interruption. He's not going to leave me. But being being in this lake house does not stop Casey from drinking. There were already some drinks in the house from the previous summer when she was there with her husband. And during that time, her husband had died. So she is like being constantly reminded of that. She is being constantly reminded of that. And so it's like there's already drinks in the house. She's having more drinks supplied by a neighbor. They can't see me, Boston. Good boy. So she's kind of being enabled by this neighbor named Eli, and she already had some stashed in the house anyway from the previous summer. So putting her here is not helping her drinking problem. Before I get too deep into this, I just want to warn you guys, this is going to be full of spoilers because this book is pretty problematic from start to finish, so there is a lot of ground to cover, and I can't really do it in a non-spoilery way, and I am going probably to get very heated, so just be prepared for that. So one day she's out on the porch, she's watching the lake, and she sees what looks like a woman drowning. She goes out there and she saves this woman's life, and this woman happens to be a supermodel named Catherine, and she lives in the house directly across the lake from Casey. And these two, they kind of strike up a little bit of a friendship. Catherine tells her a few little things that are kind of cryptic, but Casey takes it in her own way and, comes to her own conclusions about what Catherine is saying. And she forms a major obsession with this woman. She just can't stop thinking about her. She begins to watch her through binoculars through the window, watch her house constantly. And she witnesses something that she finds a little bit odd, and she decides that Catherine has gone missing and her husband has killed her. She didn't actually see this, but she draws these conclusions. Okay, so I'm going to put this down. That by itself wouldn't really bother me as much, although it is very Woman in the Window-esque. If you've read that, there's a very strong similarities in that setup. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. Okay. There's so many issues here. Her obsession with Catherine is pretty freaky, to be honest. Like, she has, I think 2 conversations with this woman before she really loses her mind and is just like, this is happening and that's happening. And she can't have any reason talked into her. That makes any sense. She starts accusing the husband right off the bat, like, what did you do to her? What, all of this. And it's like, she didn't have anything to go off of on that, at that point. And it's like, there's this other neighbor who, he's staying at one of the neighbors' houses because he's a handyman and he is fixing up their house. So he's kind of staying there while he does it, but the actual neighbors are gone. And it's like she starts watching him through the binoculars too. So this guy's name is Boone, and Casey starts watching him through the binoculars too. She spies on him when he's skinny dipping, and it's kind of creepy. It seemed pointless to me. Okay, so let's get down to some fundamentals. The first maybe 170 pages of this book was so slow and so boring. that I didn't really care about anything that was going on. And then it started to get interesting. So around page 170, I started to get into it. And, I was like, okay, it was just a slow starter. I'm liking it now. But that was very short-lived. And let me explain why. The last 25% of this book easily is a dumpster fire of what the hell is going on. Like, there was no direction. There was absolutely no direction. The twist was random. I mean, okay. Everything that you can imagine was thrown into this ending. It was just like they were taking elements from just all different cornerstones and throwing it together in a massive pile and just kind of like, let's see how it turns out. Let's see what happens. It kind of felt like that because it wasn't cohesive. Nothing was really set up. And it was so random and there were so many really, really weird things going on. Let's see. For example, we're just going to get down to some crazy shit. Are you ready for it? I'm ready for it. So something that I didn't mention earlier is on this lake, there have also been a string of women that have gone missing and bodies that haven't been found. That ties in. Okay, so Casey, starts getting Boone to believe her, and then he's an ex-cop, so it's like he calls in one of his old detective friends, and it's like they get her to investigate it, but she's also the person that's investigating the disappearances. So it's like this theory is thrown out there that Tom, which is Catherine's husband, is somehow responsible for these women. And it's like, keep in mind, Casey never saw him do anything to Catherine. She did see that they had an argument because, she could see them arguing through the window. And now she's not seeing Catherine, so she's just decided that he's done this. And now it's kind of like been decided he must have done this to these other women too. And it's like, where is the evidence? It's just, it drove me crazy. And like, there's this one scene where the cop, which up until this point, she's acted like a no-nonsense, typical cop type. And she just decides to disclose all of this confidential information to these two random people. And it didn't make sense to me why she would tell them about that investigation at all and her suspicions about Tom with no evidence, might I add. It just, I'm like, you're not doing your job, lady. It just really got on my nerves. Okay, so in her obsession, Casey breaks into their house to look for the evidence that's needed for a search warrant. It's like, girl, anything you find in there isn't going to be, you can't get a search warrant with it because you obtained it illegally. It's going to be thrown out. Like, what are you doing? It's like, she does find some stuff. Okay, she finds Catherine's cell phone. She finds her wedding ring, and like all of her clothes are still in the closet. Yes, it's suspicious, but because you broke into the house, nothing can be done with it. You know what I mean? It's just it was so dumb. And I wanted to rip her hair out for doing these things. I'm like, you want to find out what happened to Catherine. And that by itself is understandable. But you're shooting yourself in the foot because you're ruining the investigation to the point that if he did something, he's going to get away with it. And it was just so cringy, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So, let's start with the beginning of the roller coaster of the crazy crap that continues to happen on in this book. When Casey breaks into this house and finds Catherine's cell phone, like somebody tried to call her while she was there, and she took a picture with her own phone of the number. And she calls this number while she is in the kitchen with Boone, and his cell phone starts to ring. So he was the one that was calling Catherine. So it's like she starts to question him, and he admits they had a little bit of a thing, and he was just worried about her, and that's why he was calling her. But Casey then decides that because he knew Catherine and he didn't tell her, that he must have been the one to do something to her. So she kicks him out of her house, and she's like acting all crazy towards him. She even calls the cop about him. And it's like this woman thinks she's Nancy Drew, but she is doing things in such a ridiculous manner that you cannot take her seriously. So she's continuing to watch Catherine and Tom's house, and she sees him one night messing around at another neighbor's house that they're not there. So she's thinking, that's suspicious. Nobody's over there right now, so what's he doing over there? So she goes over to that house and breaks in. This time she finds substantially more. She finds Catherine tied up in the basement. Okay. I'm trying to stay calm while talking about this next part, so please bear with me. She is told by Tom and by Catherine that this is not actually Catherine, it's her body, but she is possessed, and that is why she is locked up. And the person she is possessed by is Lynn, Casey's dead husband. What? It was just ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was crazy. It was stupid. And there was no setup for it. The theory was that Lynn drowned in the lake, and then when Catherine was drowning in the lake, he entered her body. And it was just such a, like, make it make sense. Make it make sense. It just was so gross. So gross, you know? And it doesn't end there. It gets worse. It gets worse. Because after Casey makes this discovery, we have a major revelation that she was the person responsible for Lynn's death. Why, you might ask? Because she found out that he killed those missing girls. There was no hint of this throughout the rest of the book. Okay? We knew that her husband had died, but she was always talking about how much she loved him and how much she missed him, and that's why she was drinking. There was no hint of this resentment or hatred towards him, or that she had guilt. There was no setup for that. And then she's just like, oh, well, I killed him because he killed them, and I wanted to make sure he didn't hurt anybody else. It's like, why didn't you turn him in? You know, it's like her reasoning, I guess I understand. It's like you don't want him to hurt anyone. But she could have called the police. You know what I mean? And it's like, what makes matters worse is when she found out about this, she formed this whole plan to kill him in like 10 minutes. And it worked. So it's like, literally, she did this immediately after finding out. It wasn't a buildup. And it worked. And then the whole rest of the book is her not acknowledging it at all, really, until this revelation that Lynn is in Catherine's body. So, it's like she wants him to tell her where the girls are, and she's like, "Oh, I'll let you go if you tell me." And it was just this whole back and forth cat and mouse game between the two of them. And it went on way longer than it should have. Like, they were constantly toying with each other. It was this big game. She, like, gets him to take her to where he put the bodies, and it's in like this very specific part of the lake. And she had promised that she'd let him go, but she then like forces him to enter her body, and then she jumps into the lake because she's like sacrificing herself so that she can save Catherine, because like it'll get him out of Catherine's body so that she can have her life back, and put him back in the lake where he belongs. But like, it's just, I didn't understand the logic there. It's like, I knew she wanted to save Catherine. I understood that. But do you really think it's safe putting him back in the water? Because we've already proven he can get out of the water. So you're not really stopping him from doing anything by doing that. Like, it was just so convoluted and so weird. And it's like, when she goes back into the lake, he does exit her body, and then Catherine jumps down and pulls her out and saves her, so she lives anyway. And that should be the end of it. That should be the end of it. But is it? Is that the end of it? Is it really? No. No, it is not. That is not the end of it. It's not even close to the end of it. Okay? Because Casey's sitting here thinking, I found out where these girls are. I saved Catherine's life. I'm feeling pretty good. And then we have yet another twist. And that is Tom, Catherine's husband, coming in, threatening to kill her. Because, turns out, she was right. He was trying to kill his wife. And he's mad that she foiled his plans, because now he can't do it, because it's going to look weird. So he decides he's going to get rid of her, because she ruined everything. And he is brandishing a wine bottle. That is what he is threatening her with. Out of everything he could break into this woman's house and threaten her with, it's a wine bottle. He's brandishing this thing like a club. Like, oh, I'm so bad. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what I mean. So, let's pretend this is the wine bottle, okay? So it's like he comes up behind her in the house, and he's having this big long speech instead of just doing his thing. It's like he's really wants her freaked out. So he's saying all this stuff, and the whole time he's like, this wine bottle in the palm of his hand. I'm so bad. Like, am I supposed to be scared? The thing's glass. I can knock that shit out of your hand and break it. Like, it's It was ridiculous. That did not need to be there. Like, it's just the story lost all credibility. It lost every single shred of credibility with everything that happened, because it's like, it had all this random stuff going on. It's like, oh, we got a serial killer who happens to be our main character's husband, and he dies in the lake, but he's going to possess the next door neighbor. And like, she's suspecting that the next door neighbor's husband is poisoning her, but like, he tied her up and put her in the basement because she was possessed. And then, like, they get rid of they get the possession, they get him out of her body. Turns out he was trying to poison her, and now he's gonna, like, eliminate you. And it's just, oh my God, it didn't know what it wanted to do. And like I said, some of these elements by themselves don't bother me. It was the way that they were all clustered together in a way that did not really work. And on top of that, like I said, there was no setup in the first part of the book. So it's like, if there had been a setup and the clues and stuff had been interwoven, it might not have bothered me nearly as much, but there weren't. I think the closest thing was the neighbor Eli at one point was telling kind of like a campfire story sort of thing about how there was a legend that the lake was haunted. And they didn't go back to it. It wasn't elaborated on. It was kind of told like a campfire story. So it's like, I guess that was supposed to be the setup, that his soul was in the lake. But the way that it was told didn't make sense. It was like, it wasn't in a way that it was to be taken seriously. It was said in a way where you're like, oh yeah, right, this is just a story, it's just a rumor. And because they didn't go back to it, it didn't it didn't feel valid. So, I mean, that's really the only clue that I could really, really see. And yeah, it's like nothing about that ending made sense to me. Like, I didn't like the things that Casey was doing. I thought her motivations were good. She had good intentions, but it's like the decisions that she was making were just very, very stupid. It was so bizarre. It was so bizarre. It was so weird. Like, my skin was crawling. And I just didn't understand, like, how this even got published. It's it's so slow and boring for like almost 200 full pages, and then all of a sudden everything just goes crazy. Everything just goes crazy, and all this other stuff starts to happen, and it's bam, 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 and it just keeps going. And you don't think it's ever gonna stop. Oh man. I'm very nervous now to read the last 2 Riley Sager books that I haven't completed, because this made me lose faith in his work a lot. I'm going to finish them. I don't see the point in stopping now when I only have 2 more to read. I don't know if I'll buy anything that he does from this point forward. But, yeah, we'll just have to see. It was a major letdown. I gave it 2 stars, and only because the 50 pages that I actually enjoyed in between the crazy stuff that was happening and that long, draggy beginning, there was like a buffer of about 50 pages that were actually pretty good. And that's when I was starting to get into it. So, yeah, I give it a 2. Barely. Yeah, I'm so sorry if you guys disagree. But I couldn't wrap my mind around this book, and I had to talk about it. So there you go. That is all that I have for you guys today. If you liked this video, please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, follow me on the social medias, click that bell if you want to be notified of all of my upcoming videos, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Boston! Come here, Boston! Come here! Come here, boy! How you doing? Good boy. So I am going. So it's like she is drinking a lot, to the point that hi. You want down? You want down? You can get down if you want. There you go.